Now we're checking out the markets and getting some ideas for your portfolio. Ross Givens is with us, head trader educator at Traders Agency. Ross, some of your thoughts on the market. Are you feeling like it's a raging bull market? You have to be selective. What say you?
Hey, Nicole, how are you? Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's a very selective bull market, and this is not too dissimilar from what we saw back in the late 90s with the tech bubble. You know, we had a huge run up in the NASDAQ, but it was not the broad-based market. I mean, when you look underneath at the breadth, in other words, how many of the stocks are participating and joining. And despite the markets up here near all-time highs, only 54% of NASDAQ stocks are above their 200-day moving average. It's a very long-term moving average. So below that, you're in a downtrend. So it's a little bit odd, to see a bull market screaming to new highs when half the stocks are going down. So I do think you want to be selective. Obviously, AI has been the big theme of this market, is where the money's flowing. NVIDIA is obviously the big story, and I think that thing could be topping. In fact, I do think it has topped, if I'm being honest. The numbers are just crazy. And we're starting to see some rotation into infrastructure, interestingly, from your last guest, energy, stuff like that.
You actually talk about power, right? You look at nuclear power, you look at all kinds of things. You said that there may be some better opportunities outside of semiconductors. Could you explain that?
Yeah, well, AI is still a theme powering this market. It's where money's flowing, but the obvious plays are all overcooked. I mean, NVIDIA's, $3 trillion? The semiconductors are obvious, but there's more to generating AI than just the chips in those computers. One of the big ones is power. And, one stock we like a lot is a company called New Scale Power, ticker SMR. And what they do is build these small modular reactors designed specifically for these AI data centers. And so you look at AI, look, power is the bottleneck. They can't suck half the city's grid to run these things, and they're going to vertically integrate, as we've seen from Google and Apple and Amazon and all the others, and every other project. They'll start generating their own power. They're not going to use coal. They're not going to use any traditional power. Those guys are so far left, they wouldn't imagine it. So you got solar, you got wind, you got nuclear. The first two are pretty tough to get that much power, but nuclear makes a lot of sense, not just for these AI data centers, but nationwide. And I think we get some politicians who are a little bit open-minded, who realize nuclear's not as dangerous as Spielberg and Hollywood have us believe. It's renewable, it's relatively cheap, and the way our government's going, just freely spending money, they might as well build some reactors. So I think that's going to be a theme we see play out over the next couple of years, is that nuclear power generation.
Yeah, I'm hearing more and more about it, to your point. How about a name like Costamare? CMRE is the ticker there.
Yeah, love Costamare as well. If you look at, one thing we do is just gauge sector performance. So pretty simply, you look at, 40, 50 sector ETFs. What's performed best over the last month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? And you'll see pretty quickly names at the top of those lists over and over again. That's just telling you where the money's flowing. And besides semiconductor, the top performing group is marine shipping. And it's kind of risen beneath the surface, meaning a lot of people aren't talking about it, but these stocks are rising pretty quickly. Costamare is a great one, ticker CMRE. It's been a beautiful run. It broke out a couple months ago, went from, I think, $10, like 16 or 17, just up steadily for 40 straight days. You don't want to buy stocks that are extended like that. You don't want to be the sucker who gets into the top, so wait for that pullback. We had about 2 weeks of profit taking. Stock pulls back 5–10%, and then in 2 days, it's ripping back up to new highs on big volume. So technically it looks really, really good, and especially when you've got NVIDIA's off like 15% from Thursday morning to today. So in like 3 trading sessions, unsurprisingly, the NASDAQ's down, the S&P's down, but Costamare is ripping higher. And so that kind of divergence, that relative strength versus the market, I think is a really strong sign.
Yeah. I want to hear which of the Mag 7 you're most likely to buy these days.
Ooh. That's a tough one. I would probably stick with something like Apple. One of my biggest problems with NVIDIA, and look, it's a great company. The growth is huge. They got a lot of things going here. For one, I don't think they have a moat, right? There's no brand loyalty in the semiconductor business. So I don't really understand what's going to stop AMD and Intel or these foreign competitors from making products as good, if not better, especially when all their engineers cash out their stock options and go live on a yacht somewhere. A company like Apple has a big moat. Google has a big moat. You're not going to leave that that infrastructure. So I think Apple's a great one there. It's pulled back a bit, but you can almost look at that stock like a bond. I mean, you got hundreds of millions of these devices in everyone's hand. They're going to get a new one every 18 months, every 2 years. So to me, one of the safer plays out there, and if they could start innovating again, that'd be great too.
Wonderful to hear from you today, Ross. Thank you. Ross Givens, Traders
Always a
Agency.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole.